thank you, Minister, for coming to the House today. I was indeed, and this is no reflection on yourself, but I was hoping that the Minister for Social Protection would come here because it really is under her remit. But I know you will know where I'm coming from in terms of trying to solve some problems that are there. But I invited the Minister here today because I'm concerned about the situation which many families are finding themselves in, where they discover that their deceased parents or close relatives are found to have been overpaid the non-contributory pension. In the vast majority of these cases, no reviews have taken place to ascertain changes in circumstances, and the elderly people had no awareness whatsoever that they were claiming something that they weren't entitled to. So, for instance, they may have had a life policy or a slight increase in their English pension or some other change that under the strict legislation regarding pensions would have reduced the weekly payment that they were getting. Now, I completely understand that to knowingly claim something that you are not entitled to is fraud and is not acceptable. But we saw from the figures that were released even earlier this year in terms of the vast majority of social welfare overpayments are because of mistakes rather than fraud. There's only a tiny percentage there. And the people we are dealing with are elderly and are often ill people who have difficulty in understanding written communications around changing rules and regulations. And we have to have compassion and some room for error in these cases. I myself have seen bereaved families distraught that their deceased loved ones were criminalised because they had not understood the instructions. Now, you can say they're not criminalised until they come to court, but you have really elderly people, people who are now deceased, who are straight and honest people all of their lives, who then, when they pass over, are somehow told that they have done something majorly wrong. And I think that's really, really upsetting for people who are already grieving, and I don't think that it's right. And you'd have to ask the question, can we reasonably expect that an elderly, frail person enduring all the health challenges that come with ageing to be aware of that a failure or an error has occurred? So, Minister, what I'm asking is that, can you ask that compassion and understanding usurp the need to recover overpayments? I'm also concerned, Minister, about the fear that many elderly people are experiencing around the claiming of state payments, because there has been a huge drive to put people off payments and to recoup everything that can be recouped for the state. Indeed, I would ask if you have any figure for the underpayment of monies people are entitled to, because I believe that many people are so fearful that they are not claiming things that they are entitled to. So elderly people who have contributed so much to society should not have to live in fear of the payments being taken from them. These people are made to feel really vulnerable and violated, while strangers to them go through their bank account or their credit account and are bombarded with demands for the most private and intimate details. And I really, really think it's fair. And I talk to these people all of the time, and you know, they're asked for months and months of bank statements. And are you sure you haven't got another bank account? Are you sure you haven't got another credit union account? And I think we have to achieve a better balance between in how we treat these people and how we deal with people. Certainly, we don't want people claiming things that they aren't entitled to, but we don't want to have people frozen in a situation where they then don't claim things that they are entitled to.
Thanks very much, Senator Conway-Walsh. Minister, go ahead.
First of all, can I thank, on behalf of Minister Regina Doherty, I want to apologise for her absence today, and just to say that I'm standing in for her, but I'm also attached to the Department of Social Protection as well as Health and Justice. So just to give her apologies that she has another engagement. Can I also thank Senator Rose Conway-Walsh for raising this very important issue, because I think it's important that arrangements in relation to such matters are highlighted from time to time. And I welcome the fact that you have done that. And I take your point very, very strongly in relation to compassion and understanding, particularly when it comes to our senior citizens and in my own portfolio, families of people with disabilities. And I've seen that in relation to the payments as well. For example, in the recent restoration of the carers grant, there's 101,000 families at the moment claiming that grant. But I feel, from going around the country, there is a couple of thousand more people that are not claiming it. So that's an issue that we have. So we have to improve that situation, and that's something that we should focus on as well. The Department of Employment Affairs and Social Protection processes in excess of 2 million applications for support each year, and they make payments to some 1.4 million people every week. So there's a lot of people in the system. The vast majority of people who are supported by the Department are exercising their legitimate rights and receiving their appropriate entitlements. Control of abuse of the social welfare system is one of the 3 high-level functions of the Department. Activity in this area is guided by the Compliance and Anti-Fraud Strategy 2014 to 2018. The Department publishes an annual report on how it is achieving its targets and the priority areas for action for the following year. Overpayments generally arise as a result of a revision in the amount a customer is entitled to receive. Where fraud has been suspected and where a customer is no longer entitled to a payment because they return to work, have recovered from an illness, or other changes have occurred in their circumstances, overpayments are most likely to arise. There are 3 circumstances where overpayments can arise where a customer of the Department actually dies. Firstly, minor overpayments can arise in the days immediately after the death, where notification will not have been made to the Department or the death is actually registered. The second point is, and rarely, where a family member, agent or another person continues to encash the pension or other social welfare payment due to the deceased. And in the third set of circumstances, an overpayment of social welfare can be determined during the winding up of the estate of the deceased. This can arise when the schedule of the deceased assets is received in the Department and it is assessed that the deceased person was receiving means-tested payments beyond their entitlement during their lifetime. This is often the case for means-tested payments where the deceased person did not disclose or fully disclose money held in financial institutions, had investments or did not disclose an interest in property or land. In 2017, 14.4 million in overpayments were in respect of 517 deceased customers. Of this, some 14.3 million were assessed in respect of 48 customers who had undisclosed or under-disclosed assets at the time of the death. The average value of these cases was around €35,000. The balance of €100,000 overpayment relates to cases where payment was made after death, with the average value of being under €800 per case. At the end of March 2018, just over 1.6 million was outstanding in respect of all overpayment assessed during 2017. Finally, the Department of Employment Affairs and Social Protection has a central debt management service in addition to the estate unit, which can provide specialist advice to any person needing assistance. I trust this information addresses the question that the Senator has raised. And of course, on the other points, I'll bring the points you raised back to the Senior Minister, Regina Doherty. Thank you, Carla.
Senator Conway-Walsh.
Thank you, and thank you, Minister, for that reply. And I do realise that you have an understanding and indeed a compassion yourself for elderly people and people with disabilities and people who are vulnerable. So I would just ask that a communication go to the people who are making these decisions, just to bear in mind the compassion that's needed in dealing with these cases, and I think that could in the main resolve it, because we're not talking about lots of money if we compare it to some of the tax avoidance schemes and all of that we have legally put in place. I think to go after such a vulnerable cohort of people is the wrong thing to do. So I appreciate you coming into the House, and we'll talk further about it. Thank you.
Very much, Senator Conway-Walsh, and thank you.
much for the comments, but also on the whole issue. It's a very important issue. And again, as you said earlier on yourself, and I totally endorse this, in relation to the whole issue of communication, we have a statutory responsibility. The Department of Social Protection has one, and that's essential, particularly when you're dealing with people that are vulnerable, elderly people, and as I said, people with disabilities as well. So that's something that's very, very important. But also, the message has to go out that the money goes to the people. These people are entitled to it as a right, as far as I'm concerned, and the amount of fraud going on is minimum, as far as I'm concerned. And you're absolutely 100% on in relation to tax avoidance and tax evasion in this state and other countries as well. There's a huge issue out there, and if we had a lot of that money, we'd be able to provide a hell of a lot more service for people that are vulnerable in society.